She struggled. She struggled, with her, with mental illness. She struggled with addiction.
The addiction is so, it consumes you. Heroin does. It takes your life.
I didn't want it to happen, but this officer calls and, just tells me she's dead. And
I kind of got to the point in my addiction where I made funeral plans with my mom, and it took a second for that to sink into me.
I'm not just the drug addict that I, was so broken and lost.
I want to be her voice. I want to let others know that may struggle with addiction that, that they're loved.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for a special presentation, Voices of Recovery, the Impact of Opioid Misuse. I'm Kylia Berry. Tennessee is among the hardest hitting states in opioid overdoses. In just 2023, nearly 3,600 Tennesseans died from a drug overdose.
If you're dealing with somebody in your family that has addiction, love them. Let them know always how much you love them, because you never know when it's going to be the last time.
Opioid misuse is affecting families all across East Tennessee. Amber Bruno lost her mother, Susan Stallsworth, from a fentanyl overdose 3 years ago. Now her daughter, Amber, is telling her story, hoping to help others heal. No matter which road we take in life, there are many obstacles. And for Amber Bruno, it was the pain of watching a loved one struggle.
She struggled. She struggled, with her, with mental illness. She struggled with addiction.
Amber's mother, Susan Stallsworth's substance misuse habits started early.
in the 8th grade, when it started. Up till then, she was a perfect child. She was just Susan.
Amber grew up watching her mom try and try again to fight it.
You don't want to see your parent struggle, but at some point that something's wrong.
Throughout her mom's life, she worried, always looking for signs to make sure her mom was okay.
Sending her a message or calling her just to check in on her, just to be able to hear her voice and know that she was okay.
Brandon Stiles, a regional overdose specialist at Metro Drug Coalition, calls this continuum of use.
Usually when it gets to that point, you'll see someone that's choosing to put their addiction over their quality of life that they're trying to maintain.
He tells me this dependency hijacks a person's dopamine.
So they continue to make those poor decisions because they have a dependency on that substance, and it's not something where they're morally wrong.
Susan lost her life from an overdose of fentanyl, leaving Bruno's family with memories.
First thing that I really did was I called my mom and her phone was off.
For much of Susan's journey, Amber was angry at her mom, not knowing how to help her.
I wish I wouldn't have got so angry at her at times, just because I didn't fully understand what she was going through.
A sentiment shared by Susan's own mother, Ruth Newman.
You just get angry because they're better than that. They can be better than that.
Now they both know anger is not the answer.
So just to love them, and to let them know. You never know when it's going to be the last time that you talk to them or hear their voice.
Though everyone's path is different, the road to healing is open to all of us.
I want to be her voice. I want to let others know that may struggle with addiction that, that they're loved, that that there's people there that's there for them.
Now Amber is finding healing, connecting with others who've lost someone from substance misuse or are in recovery. Susan is my aunt, and she is not the only one in my family that has battled with substance misuse. Last March, my brother Landon lost his life due to medical reasons, but he himself dealt with addiction. My why is Susan. My why is Landon. My why is everyone at home that could be dealing with this tragedy. Both Amber and I know it's more than a statistic. It's a tragedy. I'm grieving their loss as I talk to you today. This semester, I've had the honor to tell the stories of those impacted by this epidemic. Substance misuse is impacting our own neighbors and families, leaving them with memories of their loved ones.
I had every opportunity to be a very successful person and be there for her kids. And the drugs took her away from that.
It's a common occurrence, drugs winning and families being left to pick up the drugs' consequences. Now let us look. Of those 3,600 overdoses, nearly 2,900 were caused by an opioid. As you can see from this graph, the opioid is the leading substance that is taking away Tennesseans' lives. Studies show that most of these overdoses include fentanyl, the same fentanyl that took Susan Stylesworth's life. Regional overdose specialist Brandon Stiles tells me why our area specifically is impacted on such a great scale.
This general area was really impacted by the pill mills, right? So there was a lot of people that were actively using and selling medication through doctor shopping or however they got it. And then when they took all that away, they had a huge population of people that were wanting to use but then didn't have the drug of choice they wanted.
He tells me other states saw it as a supply and demand and moved into Tennessee to give Tennesseans that drug of choice. Today, I break down these numbers and tell the stories of the real people impacted by addiction, taking a closer look at how to prevent the tragedy before it even happens. At the end of this presentation, I want to implant a seed of hope for those either grieving over a loved one or they themselves are on the road of recovery. Just know, you are not alone and we are all in this together. When looking at different demographics in Tennessee, in 2023, white people were the most impacted by drug overdose deaths. More specifically, men are more likely to die from a drug overdose.
I could say addiction does not discriminate. It could truthfully be any of us.
Nearly a mile away from UT's campus is a nonprofit called Metro Drug Coalition. Its whole mission is to help create a community that is free of substance misuse. One of these helping hands is Jessica Birch, and with her lived experiences, she is now a resource for all.
Guardians, what this looks like.
Jessica Birch's passion
Access these services.
is showing her community resources,
Made it my life mission to become a walking resource.
providing her own community resources she did not have.
Know that my addiction became so strong because of the lack of resources.
That addiction started when she was young.
When I started using, I started off with opioids. So back in the day, that was when Oxycontin was really kind of running rampant through our communities.
It got worse as years went on.
Got to the point in my addiction where I made funeral plans with my mom.
She turned to drugs as her own resource.
Without being able to properly cope with some of the things I've gone through in life, that was what I had access to, and often.
Birch stopped using when her oldest was born.
Kind of realized like my family is preparing to lose me.
Now she's a resource for those battling addiction.
To train my community on like signs and symptoms of overdoses, just talking about different types of drugs, addiction.
Being a light for people like Becky Paris.
Into treatment on March the 31st of that year, and met Jessica. She was one of my counselors in my treatment center that I was in.
Now Birch and Paris are serving their own community together.
It's really an honor even getting to work beside her for somebody that I've looked up to for, many years now.
Jessica is not the only person at Metro Drug Coalition who is providing for her own community. The coalition is ran by 26 people that all share the same passion for change. Coming up, a second chance at life.
If you hadn't done that, where would I be? Would I be a vegetable? That could be true too, which that would be scary to me. But thank God for Narcan.
A new tool saving lives with the help of someone at the right place at the right time.
Primary prevention can stop substance misuse before it even occurs.
How you can prevent the tragedy before it starts. Hello, and thank you for joining us for a special presentation, Voices of Recovery, the Impact of Opioid Misuse. I'm Kylia Berry. Narcan, or naloxone, reverses an opioid overdose. It can be bought at any local drugstore. It is also provided and distributed to the Knoxville community by many local nonprofits. I tell the story of one woman who was given a second chance with Narcan.
Hadn't been there, where would my life be? Would I be in heaven right now?
Nearly a month ago, Amy Spencer was given a second chance at life right in front of this warming center.
It was an eye-awakening. I had never been Narcan in my life.
Her second chance was given to her with just one click.
I just got out of the hospital that day, and I've been in the hospital for a month, had my finger amputated.
They're not communicating to see if they're breathing.
Brandon Stiles, a regional overdose specialist, is the one who saved her life.
As I got to the door, a gentleman was walking in, and he was like, "There's an overdose over here."
Brandon says she was giving all the signs of an overdose.
Extremely cold. She didn't seem like she was breathing. She wasn't communicating, right? So I pulled her out, took off my jacket, placed it under her head, gave her a dose.
That one dose of naloxone gave Amy a second chance at life and something to help her live it.
There's no other feeling that you can feel besides seeing someone that has lost hope and then seeing the light come back on when they've gained a little bit of hope.
Amy Spencer is not the only one whose life was saved from the use of Narcan. Since 2019, Metro Drug Coalition has given over 25,000 Narcan kits in Knox County. You don't have to be a regional overdose specialist like Brandon Stiles or Jessica Birch. You yourself can carry Narcan with you and save a life with one dose. What if there was a way to prevent from having to even use Narcan? I spoke to the Metro Drug Coalition.
Primary prevention can stop substance misuse before it even occurs.
Knox County data reports that young people ages 15 to 24 have had the highest increase in overdose deaths.
It's making it even more important than ever to recognize that these are individuals that are needing care and support and education that is helping them to lead safer and healthier lives that are hopefully free of substance misuse.
Primary prevention work is based on evidence.
Research. We are looking at things that we know long term are creating change and positive change for our youth whenever they become adults.
Prevention work to decrease substance misuse comes in many forms.
We're also trying to prevent harm. Okay, so if we think about harm reduction, we're trying to prevent binge drinking.
Binge drinking is common across all campuses, and at the University of Tennessee, many students come here on the Strip to hang out with their friends and grab a drink. But the question is, are they over-consuming?
I would say that there's definitely an overconsumption problem. I mean, sometimes you even see it around campus on a Friday or Saturday.
Director of Prevention Services at MDC says students need to stop and think.
I often encourage college students to think about what was your goal if you're choosing to use substances. What was the purpose of that?
This is where harm reduction becomes important.
We know that They are at a higher risk of already being using. And that's where we look at primary prevention as being more of a connection also to harm reduction.
Each demographic has different risk factors.
Here at MDC in our primary prevention, we're hoping to do work that is meeting each of those populations.
Coming up, hope for those struggling.
To be the best version of myself so I can motivate, educate, and lead others to be the best versions of themselves.
My life mission to become a walking resource.
Coming up, I tell the story of two individuals that turned their addiction into a passion.
Hi, how are you? Welcome to Gateway Coffee.
On the outside, Gateway Coffee Shop looks just like any ordinary coffee shop, but I take a deeper look at one of the soberistas and how she gives hope with every cup.
Person that they're supposed to be, before addiction got a grip.
You just heard from Ann Young, the Director of Recovery Support Services at Metro Drug Coalition. The Gateway has been serving the Knoxville community since 2023. Since then, they've provided more than 88,000 services to the community. One of the people they helped is Christy Fithen by giving her a job at the Gateway. It's not your ordinary coffee shop. It's one that employs soberistas. I tell the story of Christy Fithen, a soberista at Gateway Coffee that serves more than just a cup of coffee, but a reminder that there's hope.
Hi, how are you? Welcome to Gateway Coffee.
Metro Drug Coalition, there's a coffee shop operated by soberistas like Christy Fithen.
And I may have to put you some more ice in there.
The coffee maker got into the role when she knew she needed help.
I came across a friend that had came through the Gateway, and he inspired me to come in and work on getting help in recovery.
Each order she takes,
Can I help you?
she's taking the inspiration from her friend and serving it to others.
I can be inspirational to others and help them lead them to the right direction, whether it be recovery from homelessness, addiction.
C has been clean for 13 months. Now she's on the road to recovery.
I was homeless for 8 years, right here on the streets of Knoxville. And I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
She's writing her new
11,
story.
20, had been talking about opening a coffee shop. And before I was really dedicated to staying clean, I wanted to be in the coffee shop.
Getting help from people like Ann Young.
Be the person that they're supposed to be, before addiction got a grip.
Ann says being a soberista has allowed Christy to find her true self.
What a wonderful woman she has become, right? And that was always there, but it was just covered up with addiction.
For Christy, each cup of coffee she serves
There you go. Feedback
means more than just a coffee.
It inspires me to be able to be an inspiration and let them see that there is hope. Absolutely. Are you going to hang around?
Christy Fithen was one of the first soberistas at Gateway Coffee. Being a soberista is just the start of the resources that the Gateway Recovery Community Center provides. With over 20 million people having substance misuse disorders, only 10% are getting the treatment they need. If you or a family member are struggling with substance misuse, help is available. Contact Jennifer Kinsley, the Knox County Lifeline Director, at 865-410-9527. Another resource available is the Tennessee Red Line. They offer support 24/7, 365 days a year. You can call 800-889-9789 for an anonymous referral. And you can also visit the Gateway located off 5th Avenue in Knoxville. The Gateway focuses on community-based recovery services. Now, you keep seeing his face throughout this entire segment, but he himself has had obstacles. Brandon Stiles, the regional overdose specialist, is using his own experiences to help others in their own journey.
Connected to something bigger than myself.
For Brandon Stiles, his connection is serving others.
I advocate and I do service work, and I help find the resources needed to the people that are the most vulnerable population that we have today.
Through his experiences, he is showing people there is hope.
Just because this is where you're at, that you don't have to stay there, because I've been there and I'm no longer there.
Brandon's story didn't start as a regional overdose specialist. In 2018, right behind me is where he called home.
So that carried on for a couple of years until I became homeless. I would stay with different friends back and forth.
One of these friends is his sister, Bella Wittenberg.
I've been here through every step. I've never left his side, no matter how hard it got. I've just been here.
His journey with addiction started at a young age.
Raised by people that were in the streets. They were the only ones that showed me that they cared at that time, and they showed me how to not starve, basically, right?
Now he's turned that addiction into a passion for serving others.
I visualize being the individual that is of service, that is creating opportunities, being a pillar in the community that can advocate for change where it's needed.
Not only is Stiles a regional overdose specialist, he serves on the National Alliance on Mental Health Illness, or NAMI. Thank you for joining me for this special presentation and listening to stories of those impacted by the opioid epidemic. Remember, there is hope and you are not alone.
It's like he's hosting holidays, and it's just mind-blowing. It takes so much off of me just to have him be there to support me back too.
Just don't give up. Keep chasing your dreams, and when it's meant to be, it will be.
I know that there's so much more to come for us.
Girl that didn't even know how to talk proper to have an interview at a place in general.